Hi, Dr. Webb. This is my Reflect and Connect on the, what's the name of it? On the Colwell and Hewitt assessment reading. Let's just get straight into it. So, as I stated, this is all about assessment, and this article I thought was really good at kind of getting into the nitty-gritty details about assessments, particularly in music. It's not just about general assessments for education, it's specifically for music. First of all, right off the bat, it says, or Colwell and Hewitt state that assessment is to improve learning. And it's not just, a test for test's sake or anything of that sort. It's to improve learning. So you read through, states private lessons are really good for assessment because when you're in that one-on-one environment, the teacher is able to constantly assess what's going on with the student, whether it be their performance or their skills of their playing or anything of that sort. Constantly assessing. And the other key to assessment is regularly checking for understanding. That's the key to these two, is being able to see if the student knows and understands fully what they're learning. Frequent and carefully planned steps using formative and summative assessment lead to your best overall understanding of a student's progress. And formative and summative assessments being, formative is like a test or a quiz or something for a grade or something tangible, and summative would be watching them perform, watching how they do in orchestra, how they are like doing their scales during a warm-up, stuff like that. Let's see. Assessment must be a part of the planning at every stage, and additional evidence is needed other than a good performance / a good concert. And what that means is, your students putting on a good show at the end of the year doesn't mean that they've learned everything. They could do it perfectly, and it could be a fluke, and it means nothing, and they've learned nothing all year. You need to be able to see if they understand the music that they're doing, if they understand the concepts you've been working on. As I said, frequent use of formative and summative assessment is key. You can, vary this up. You have quarterly practice checks, and that's your formative. You give a grade. Summative is going to be group lessons when you take note about how little Billy Susie is doing with his G scale, how Bobby is doing with his bow grip, and things that you note to yourself that you use for continued like check-ins and like see for their growth. Let's see. Paper pencil quizzes are better for testing knowledge rather than verbal, having a test or something like that. And then there are things that we can test for or use for assessment. Let's see where that is. Things that you can use for paper and pencil, musical discernment, melodies, familiar pieces, recognition of style and structure, factual knowledge, things that are like tangible and like you can assess music as an art, like as like a thing. When it comes to evaluating musical skills, there are a lot of other different things that you can do. The first part was like knowledge, and then this comes to playing the instrument, which is a little more gray area when it comes to defining how you assess. You can assess performance skills, And that could be, for example, from the article, production of good tone throughout the pitch and dynamic ranges, the ability to change tone quality to suit the music, accurate intonation, pitch range sufficiently wide for the level of music played, dynamic range from pianissimo to fortissimo, and accurate and rapid use of one's hands and fingers. So these are all technical accuracies, stuff like that. Reading skills is the next one. That could be sight reading or reading a piece, or, as the article says, reading unfamiliar music. In sight reading, the student should see more than the notes. Assessment should note awareness of the key signature, accidentals, dynamic markings, accents, phrase and tonguing or bowing markings, and recognition of the phrase so that proper articulation is observed. So this comes to like almost musical literacy. Like, can you read a key signature? Do you know what the key signature means? If you see a sharp or an accidental in front of a note, can you apply that? Auditory and visual skills, observation. Teachers who don't observe closely miss a most valuable assessment tool. And I like that they give a list of things that you can observe and add to the assessment. For example, absence of instrument from school locker, attitude, behavior, bowings, breathing, care of instrument, etc., pencil availability, etc., etc. Lots of things that you don't think about, but you can use to check and see how a student is doing. Are they taking their instrument home? Do they have a pencil? Do they have the right fingerings written down? Do they have tension in their hand? Things of that sort. Tests, tools, and procedures. You can measure musical aptitude. There's a couple of different tests. There's standardized and teachered constructed measures of musical achievement. And then you can have them submit audio and video recordings. You can also have students judge themselves compared to each other. Music contests or festivals, private lessons, interviews, lots of different things that you can do to incorporate assessment. Doesn't just have to be a test, doesn't have to be a plain quiz. You can have students play for each other and write a half a sheet. I think we did that when we went to West Seneca. I forget the teacher's name, but she had them write out on a form that only she reads what the students had to say about each other's scales and things of that sort. Overall, a lot of cool stuff from this reading. Things that you can really dig in and kind of internalize. I can't say it all in this short amount of time, but a lot of interesting things to read about just about assessment, things that I can put towards like going towards my classroom. I feel like from experience and just overall, a lot of assessment comes from summative, being able to just watch and take note and make mental note of what your students do, because you can't give, it's not ideal to give a plain test every 3 days or every 2 days or every month or every week. That's not gonna help a whole lot. But if you make a mental note of how your student does, that'll make more progress in the long run. Thanks.